There are some individuals in the black community who take pleasure in seeing a black man lose their job. And what these people don't understand is what in your efforts to get a black man fired off their job off his or her job, you're not only hurting that black man, you're hurting yourself. What the problem with many of these Afro American Negroes, they have this crab in a bucket mentality, and many want to be the H nice. Again, what is the H nice? They want to be the head Negro in charge. And they feel threatened by the presence of any black male on the job, and they feel that if this black male comes to the job and they start showing a little bit more competency than they have, they may lose their job or that person may take their job. This is the type of paranoid and dysfunctional thinking many of these Afro American Negroes, male and female, have whenever they see a new black man on the job. They become extremely uncomfortable and extremely uneasy in the presence of another black man. And instead of trying to make that black man feel welcome on the job and comfortable on the job, or trying to support that black person on the job, no, but they're going behind the back of this black man and making efforts to get them fired. And this type of thinking, it's not constructive because all these efforts that these people take to get this black man fired do not help them in the long run. In fact, they actually hurt them in the long run because if you look at the bigger picture, and this is something many of these Negroes who work in corporate America don't do, they don't see how you getting a black man fired doesn't help. The first reason that it doesn't help is because you've helped continue to perpetuate negative stereotypes regarding black men. When you get the black man fired off his job for some sort of infraction or question of competency, all you have done is continue to perpetuate the worst stereotypes about black men. Black men being lazy, black men being incompetent, black men not being able to do work. And this is something that many of your dysfunctional Negro women and some of these empty suit intellectual Negroes think that they're doing. They're thinking that by getting the black man fired, they're helping themselves to look like the H nice, but in actuality, they have hurt everybody's ideas regarding black people because when that black person again is terminated and it's time to hire someone else, guess who they're not hiring? They're not hiring any black people. They're going to go with a Latino, they're going to go with an Asian, they're going to go with an Indian, they're going to go with an Arab, or they're going to go with a white person. And that's not going to help you because what's going to happen is when it's time for that person to come in and then they have an opportunity to help someone else, guess what that white person or that non black person is going to do? They're going to help another white person or a non black person. And that's what they're going to do. That's why it's not smart to try to get a black person fired because all that does is keep other black people from getting work. The second reason you shouldn't be trying to sit there and get another black man fired is it reflects badly on you and it reflects badly on the company. What kind of employee sits there and tries to stab another employee in the back? I mean, in a business world, people are supposed to be a team and we're supposed to be working together. And when you have an organization, when you have these type of crab in a bucket people, there's not going to be a lot of growth in that organization. In fact, you're not going to be able to meet any goals because you have people like this. They're being passive aggressive, they're sabotaging another coworker, and that's going to make everything not when that person looks bad, it's going to make both everybody black looks bad. And the whole thing is that when you sabotage people again, it just hurts everyone long term. And that's not a reason that you should have to get. I mean, that's not a reason to get somebody fired. If somebody's committing a crime or a major, violation of company policy, that yeah, you can see reporting that. But because you don't like someone, you know, that's really a petty reason to get somebody fired and to upend somebody's life. Third reason you shouldn't be trying to sit there and get somebody fired is that that's taking money out of your community. I mean, person, this black man has a right to make a living and a right to make money. And if they're making money, that's bringing money back to your community. And when you take that money, when you get that guy fired, you've not only taken money out of his family's hands and his ability to take care of his family and himself, you've taken money out of your own community because that money that guy was being paid, that money, quite a good chunk of it, probably could have stayed in your black community and helped it to build wealth. And he could have probably taken that money and used it to help out other black owned businesses or help out other black people. But because this person's out of work, guess what what can they do for anybody? Nothing. So that money is gone out of your community. And when people go out and hire that Hispanic, that Asian, that Arab, that Indian, or that white person, guess where that money is going from the payroll of the company you're working at? That's right, it's going to their community to make them richer. So at the end of the day, you have hurt your own economy, all because so that you can have a social position that is inside of your head to impress people who are again inside of your head. And the next reason why you shouldn't try to get a black man fired is because it doesn't benefit you at all. I mean, what is the position of the age nice? It's a psychological position. It's a position that is inside your head. I mean, you're the H nice of the company, and what position do you have in this company? In many cases, the people who want to be the H nice are usually extremely low level people like administrative assistants, secretaries, or first line managers. So, you being the only black person there really doesn't mean much because you have no real position of authority and you have no real position that allows you to have any sort of power or control over anything. So your position of H nice is absolutely worthless. And on top of it, you don't own anything on this job. You don't control anything on this job. So you being the H nice is absolutely worthless. And the next reason why you shouldn't try to get a black man fired is that again, it works against you overall because when there are more black people in a company, black people could have the possibility to work together, and you can get issues presented if you have more than one person in a business. If you have more than one person in a business, you can then present a black issues or you can present a black platform because you have the political allies in a business to support your platform. And this is how many people in business get their platforms done. You have Hispanic coworkers, they'll get together and they'll present something that's Hispanic related. Or Asian coworkers will get together and present something that's Asian related to a business and try to target that market. But African American workers, because they work against themselves, cannot get a platform presented that gets their issues presented. And because you sit there and when a black man comes in, you get him fired, you can't get anything done. This is why nobody, wants to listen to the African American person. Nobody really cares about what the African American person has to say because they have nothing. They have no allies inside of the business to help them or support them. And when you get rid of the black man as he's coming in the door, there's nobody there to help you stay in the place when people are getting ready to push you out of it. And this is something that your Negro just does not understand that in business you need economic and political allies if you are working for somebody else. And you need those allies to help protect and preserve your employment at a position until you can get enough capital ready to start your own business. This is why you don't sit there and make efforts to get somebody else fired off their job because you're gonna need those type of people to support and protect you in situations and to get your agenda move forward at that business. But this is something many of your Negroes just don't understand. And they'll sit there and they'll try to get a black man fired off a job, not understanding that, that black man could be the one person that could help you move your life forward and help you and other people, get into this business. The big problem with this Afro American Negro, and when he gets into the job market, he wants to be again the H nice, the head Negro in charge, the one supposedly running things, But because he has no idea on how things run, all he does is get run out of the door. And because he's sitting there trying to hold on to a little tiny position, trying to get people fired, trying to get people put out of their job, trying to make the job unbearable to the point where people are forced to quit. Also, he can have a mediocre position in somebody else's company, not understanding that the whole point of being at somebody's company is to get enough skills and to get enough financial resources so that you can, as you move up in the organization, you can start laying the foundation for starting your own business. But because your Negro has a bit of a slave, not a bit of a, has a completely slave-minded way of thinking and a dependent way of thinking, he doesn't think, of of developing those type of allies and those type of partners that will help them. Everybody else of any other race will start thinking of working together with others, trying to support others, and trying to build that platform so that they can have the tools to build their own business in the long run and in the short run, protect and preserve their employment. But your Negro will sit there and spend their time trying to get black men fired because they don't like them. And when you really think about it, that's a really shallow reason, again, to get somebody fired. I mean, that shows that these Negroes, they'll putting their emotional needs ahead of their economic needs. Most of these other people of other races, they may not like each other, they may not even care about each other. But when they get on the job, they're going to make an effort to work together because they understand that they need to take care of their economic needs first, and their personal and social needs are not a part of a business. When you're in a business, you're there to make money. You're not there to make people happy. You're not there to be liked. And you're not there to be cared for. But your Afro American Negro, he goes to work again to be happy, to be liked, to socialize, and he's looking again to get his emotional needs met from an economic and political system. He confuses love and respect, and this is why so many African Americans struggle in the workplace. They're looking for love from a workplace. They're looking for people to care about them in a workplace. Again, looking to get their emotional needs met from a business, which is an economic institution. It's not meant for you to meet your emotional needs. When I mean by respect is you go to work every day, you put in your hours, you put in your time, and people respect you because you're professional, you come in on time, you meet your goal, you are working towards your goals, you have a good rapport, good conduct, good discipline. This is what people will respect. And respect is more important than getting love. And without respect, you have nothing. And this is something your Negro doesn't understand. And because your Negro does not respect black men in the workplace, no one respects black people in the workplace because black people don't respect themselves. No one respects them in the workplace, and because they don't respect black men in the workplace, and they make every effort to get fired. Again, this is why the black person in the workplace is the most expendable person in any workplace because again, we have no sense of value of self, so no one else values us. And this whole crab in a bucket mentality, these reasons that I've discussed in this video, this is why our economy is at the bottom because what happens is we have every time a black man tries to get a job, other black people try to get him fired, or they try to get him to quit, or they try to play all sorts of silly little games, and all it does is undermine your African American economy because without your black men at work on jobs, you have nobody to build your African American community. Because if we look at your African American community and its economy, which is now controlled 70% by black women, where is most of the money going? Again, most of the money is not staying in the black community because, again, your female is a consumer and her whole mindset is based on consumption because all she is concerned with is social currency and home oriented things. So 98% of your money is going outside to these foreign owned stores, to these hair salons, to these weave people, these Korean weave manufacturers, to these hair and nails places, to jeans and sneaker stores, to Gucci, to Prada, to all these other people. All that money is going outside of your community, and none of it is being used to build because why? Men are builders, and when your men aren't working, they aren't working towards getting the capital and the resources towards building anything. Because if your man is not working, he is not building. He does not have the tools to build. He does not have the resources to build, and he doesn't have the capital to build. Because this is why your economy again is screwed up. Because in most cases, you have black women and you have these Uncle Toms and these shine bones working towards getting black men fired, and they're thinking that they have accomplished something and that they have achieved something. But at the end of the day, when they have gotten decent black men fired off their jobs, or gotten them in a whole bunch of trouble, all they've done is hurt themselves and their community in the long term. Because you have taken resources out of your community and you have prevented people from being able to help the African American community. This is what these Negroes do every day. They think that sitting there and getting the new black man fired is some sort of. They're sitting there with a badge of honor, proud that they have gotten this black man fired, and they're thinking that they've protected. At the end of the day, they've saved their jobs. But at the end of the day, they have only further exacerbated the situation that is bad in the black community and continued to push the decline of the African American Negro community. And this is what you do when you keep black men from working, and when they finally get a job, you get them fired, and you feel like you've accomplished something. I've seen people sit there with smiles on their black people will sit there with smiles on their faces when I was when I was fired from jobs, sitting there proud of this, like they've accomplished something. Like, you haven't accomplished anything. You've hurt yourself long term. Because again, for all the reasons I've mentioned, you have no allies to help you out. You have nobody to support you to help you out when you're in a jam. You're not going to be the H nice. And the craziest thing I see about it is these Negroes who will sit there and say he's going to take my job. Well, it's not my job. I can't take something that I don't own. And nobody can take anything that's not theirs unless you are the owner of a business and you are the CEO of that business, and you have some sort of ownership on it. Nobody can take it from you. Everybody is employed at will, and the only way you can usually keep a job is with good performance in most cases. So anybody who's doing well, any smart boss who already has an employee who's doing well in one position, is not going to be sitting there thinking about, I'm going to take the new guy and replace him with that person. Usually when these type of business situations, if there's a new guy and he's doing fairly well, he's going to know that this guy doesn't have enough experience or seasoning to take over this next position, and that I'm going to stick with this guy who I have in this position already. Why? Because he already has the experience and the seasoning that I need. He already understands the culture of the organization. New guy needs to get up to speed before I can put them in that position. So there is no logical reason for any smart businessman to sit there and promote somebody into another position unless they have a plan to promote the next man into the next position. That's how it usually works. So there's all this ideology that many of these Negroes have about somebody taking their job. This is completely insane, because this same person who would think this way would probably replace that same Negro with an Asian, an Indian, or an Arab, or a white person if they could. But if you've got a good, but the whole thing is that if you've already got somebody good over here, why would I go over to get somebody from somebody over some other place? And I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how they're going to function in my organization, and I don't know how they're going to perform. So why it'd be better for me to stick with the guy who I have than to go out and get somebody else. But I look at the big picture regarding this whole people sitting there conspiring to get a black man fired off their job because they don't like him or they're uncomfortable with him. That's that's not beneficial for the black community in the big picture. Now, many of these people, these crab in a bucket Negroes, who want to be the H nice, all they do in the long term have destroyed their own community and prevented the growth of their African American community. Because if these people, like myself, were to remain on a job, um, the the whole thing is that if we were to remain on a job, the African American economy would be a lot better. Because the whole thing is that when you have black men in jobs, what do they do after maybe 4 or 5 years? They start taking their capital, they start saving their money, and they start working towards building their own businesses, and eventually they get to the point where they want to start hiring other black people. So when you get a black man fired, all you do is you prevent all that growth from coming. You prevent those seeds from being planted into the ground, which could have led to a fruitful harvest. And this is something that, most black people don't think about in a long-term picture. They just think so short. They just think, oh, I got this job and I got to make sure nobody else comes up and takes it from me, instead of understanding that, again, all resources belong to God and He provides as He sees fit, and you can't get what He doesn't have for you. And on top of it, you know, for these people to say, 80% of these Negroes to say that they're Christians and they're sitting there conspiring to get a black man fired off his job, I mean, that shows how hypocritical they truly are. Because if you are truly a Christian and you see another black man on a job, and this is something I've seen, I don't try to get people fired. I don't try to get people, in trouble. For me, all I want to do is just get through a day, get this work done. I'm not concerned about the other black man. I mean, I'm happy that he's here and I will support that black man in that job, and I want to see them, be the best person they can be. I don't want to see anybody get fired. Because once you have been fired and once you have lost a job, you want to make sure every effort to make sure that that person stays in the job. And on top of it, as I've stated in other videos, it costs money to replace people, and it actually slows the company's productivity down when somebody gets fired. What happens is when somebody gets fired, everything in the company slows down as other workers have to pick up the slack from that void that is left. And then what happens is when the new person comes in, you have to, slow down even further so that they can get up to speed. And this whole process takes anywhere from 90 to 180 days, on from when that new hire is brought in to when they can get up to speed. And in all that time, you are losing productivity. You are losing market share. You're not able to compete as effectively. It's just like a sick person. If you're sick, you're not 100%, so you cannot really perform as well as you could if you had all hands on deck. Um, and when you're in a company and you are a person that's not in a position, you're not able to perform. Your business is not able to perform as well as it would if you had all those people on hand. And the whole thing is that whenever you get somebody fired, that really slows down your momentum. This is something that most of these people, these crab in a bucket Negroes, don't think about long term regarding a business. They don't think, you've not only ruined this person's life, but you're hurting yourself as well, and you're hurting the business as well. And this is something that, people think, oh, I got this black man fired. Oh, I made him pay. And this is something that, many of these Negro women and many of these dysfunctional Negro men, these effeminate Negro men think, oh, I got him. I made him pay. I got rid of him. I did something. Like, you've accomplished something. But again, the only person who was hurt when a black man gets fired from a job is another African American Negro. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.